Hi, welcome back. Mindful Serenity Yoga, or Waking Up in a Busy World with Nancy. And we're going to continue our exercise of answering questions from a bowl this time because I'm outside my regular environment. And I'm going to set the timer. I think I am anyway. And I'm ready to start. Okay, let's pull out a question that we will answer within a 10-minute time frame. I'm having a hard time seeing today, especially with this pencil. What is the difference between mindfulness and meditation? What is the difference between mindfulness and meditation? Take a deep breath. What is the difference between mindfulness and meditation? And this is a question I should be able to answer, being that I just received recently my mindfulness and meditation teacher training certificate. Well, my teacher certificate, training, something like that. I don't train people to be mindfulness teachers. I am a mindfulness meditation teacher. How's that? Through the School of Positive Transformation. What a wonderful name. And the School of Positive Transformation also was kind enough to grant me, through work that I've done, a certificate in positive psychology practitioner. And the two go hand in hand. And it was a wonderful school, being that most of the people who taught that were PhD psychologists who taught at the university level. And so it was very scientifically validated. The information that was provided and the teaching resources were very scientifically validated. And a lot of research was done. So I was very impressed that I was able to get through that course and get the two certificates that I have. So that was a ramble on, and back to the question, what is the difference between mindfulness and meditation? Well, I think the biggest difference is that basically they evolve in the same realm, right? Mindfulness and meditation are both there to help us become more centered, more able to tap into the wiser part of ourselves. They take us away from the external distractions of our busy worlds and bring us back to the calm center of our inner ones. Mindfulness is our ability to observe and notice the external world and the inner world, both of those, happening as they are happening without judgment and without attempting to change them or fix them in any way. While meditation, we often think of the seated practice of sitting down and becoming calm and center. Meditation is something we may do maybe 20 minutes twice a day or longer, depending on your preference and what you're trying to obtain. And mindfulness is something you do every single moment of every day, and that's the difference too. Mindfulness is like a walking practice, not necessarily like walking like this, but constantly moving practice. You don't have to be seated to do it. And meditation is often a seated practice. Meditation is when we tend to close our eyes and focus on some, or in some traditions we don't close our eyes. Some of the Mahayan traditions recommend the open eyes and the relaxed gaze during meditation. All other traditions ask us to close our eyes, but it's a seated practice, or a practice where we become silent and still and look inward rather than outward. We reflect on, a thought, a breath, a mantra, body sensation, contact points, on loving kindness, or as in Tonglen, ability to take the suffering on of other individuals and breathe it out. Whereas in mindfulness, it's not refined or confined to a particular time frame. When you meditate for your 20 minutes, it is a form of mindfulness for sure, because we're very aware, becoming very aware of what we're experiencing, and we go beyond what we're aware to a deeper awareness in meditation. But in mindfulness, we are aware, we take that awareness out into the world around us so that every moment becomes stilled in a sense, and we're appreciating it, we're noticing. That's a good word. Mindfulness is all about noticing what's happening around us and to us in every given moment, and meditation is about going beyond noticing to a deeper level of consciousness. Hope that works. But mindfulness is what we do on a regular basis. And we can have like set times for mindfulness. Right now, for 10 minutes, I'm going to be very mindful, or 1 minute, I'm going to be very mindful of what I'm doing. I'm going to, get out of my busy head, and I'm going to watch what's around me. I'm going to look at this natural scene, and without judging it, without naming, labeling, or getting lost in story about it, without analyzing it, I'm just going to notice it. I'm just going to allow it to be. And as I'm noticing it, I may notice if my inner world is picking up these natural judgments of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, and then I will notice how that feels, and without judging it, not getting lost in the pleasant or lost in the unpleasant, and not pushing away the unpleasant or pulling in the pleasant, just observing what is without that judgment. And when the judgments come, we observe our judgments. Whereas in meditation, we do go there. Like that is, to me, when I do a meditation practice for other people, a guided meditation practice, I will start with the mindfulness. And I'll bring the mindfulness to the core center of the experience. And then I will hopefully get the individual to, if either I guide that question or create the situation where the person will ask that question, well, who is observing? Who is experiencing this? Who is feeling this? And begin to tap into that deeper awareness. It's becoming a being aware. And in mindfulness, it's more of the being aware. And then, of course, you can take mindfulness even deeper and go into the being aware, but it's not, you're not disconnecting from any of the external environment or the external world in order to get to that point. And so the biggest difference between mindfulness and meditation, I would say, is that mindfulness is something we carry with us throughout the day. It's something we try to practice constantly so that we become more present and more in the moment. Whereas meditation is more of a formalized and confined and refined type of experience where you're seated. And I say seated, but of course you can lie down and do yoga nidra, for example, or whatever, but where you're blocking out the world to some extent for a period of time and just focusing on your inner environment. Inner environment, meditation. Outer environment and inner environment to some degree is mindfulness. So which one is better? Oh wow, I don't believe that one is better. I think they both complement each other perfectly. I like both practices, and I can do guided practices for both as well as I do my own internal practices. But I think they're both necessary if we want to get to that level of being aware, and of accepting life for what it is, and accepting reality for what it is without judgment, without a need to make it different, without all our busy work and attempts to control the external world so it makes us feel okay inside. And I think mindfulness and meditation go together perfectly to help us deal with our so-called problems, because they help us to see that there really is no problems in this moment, right? They help us to see who we really, really are beyond what the mind tells us we are and what our ego tells us we are. So for that reason, I think both are wonderful and healing practices that every one of us should partake in at some point. It's probably more easy for people starting out to be mindful than it is for them to meditate. Meditation requires a certain focus, a willingness to focus, and for most people with really busy minds, it's hard to sit for 20 minutes, or hard to sit for 10 minutes with your mind. You know, Pascal said the source of most of man's suffering comes from the fact that a man can't sit in a room alone, right? Quietly in a room alone. And Ponce's 139, and that is so true. Many of us have a hard time sitting in meditation, but maybe we'd be more likely to say, okay, I'm eating this piece of chocolate, and I'm really going to experience this piece of chocolate. I'm going to close my eyes, and I'm going to feel the texture of it, and I'm going to feel the taste of it and whatnot. So mindfulness might be a bit easier for meditation than meditation for these individuals. Well, my time is up, and once again I probably rambled, but I'm going to leave it as is, as I told myself and told all of you that I would do. Hope you get some benefit from this. Thank you very much for joining. Namaste.